The storm came earlier than expected. On the frozen world of Talvana, where even the atmosphere whispered frost and silence, the Threxian matriarchy ruled with iron precision. Mercy was not a concept. Survival was the creed. Compassion, a weakness punished more severely than failure. High Matron Velhara had climbed the ranks through discipline, strategy, and most of all by keeping her heart frozen like the rest of the planet. As a commander of a planetary sector, her word meant life or death. She believed in no such thing as kindness. It was just another form of deceit. Her people lived by rules, by logic, by the blade of duty. And yet, on the edge of her secure domain, lived a species that defied all understanding. Humans. Their colony was an outpost called Ashreach, built by Terran pioneers who believed they could coexist with the Threxians. Velhara had only tolerated them because they brought new trade, technologies, and occasional assistance with terraforming units. Still, she viewed them as unpredictable creatures of chaos, loud, emotional, erratic. The ice storm arrived on the 39th rotation of the season, a spiraling, death-choked maelstrom of cryo winds, sub-zero lightning, and glacial flares. Velhara had seen many storms, but this one devoured valleys whole. And on that day her daughter was caught in it. Velhara had no husband. Threxian reproduction was engineered and managed by genetic consortiums. But Yari, her spawn, her heir, was something she had not expected to love. The girl was 10 cycles old, clever, stubborn, and far too curious for her own good. She'd wandered beyond the dome, chasing a sky beast with her learning drone. Velhara sent a patrol to retrieve her. Then communications went dark. She stood in the command tower, face stoic, voice flat as she gave the order to seal the dome. Losses are expected. All forces retreat and protect the stronghold. The officers nodded. No one challenged the High Matron. Mercy had no place in their hierarchy. Middle. At the edge of the storm's howl, Jack Armitage, a human xenobotanist and environmental engineer, was strapping himself into a snowsuit when the emergency alert reached him. His equipment had picked up a strange, irregular heat signature a few kilometers out. Too small to be a military vehicle. Could be a scout drone, could be a wounded animal. Or a child. "Are you seriously going out in that?" shouted Dr. Holland, his lab partner. "We just hit stage 5 cryogenic wind levels." Jack turned, checking his shoulder scanner. "That's a life sign. If it's a person, they won't last another 15 minutes. You're going to die out there. Then I'd better be quick." No one followed him. Humans were bold, yes, but not reckless. Except for Jack, apparently. His exosuit was rated for severe conditions, lined with thermal shielding and a kinetic barrier tuned for cryo bursts. It beeped and screamed warnings at every step, but Jack moved with purpose. His boots crunched through the snowdrifts as the visibility dropped to a meter. The ice storm screamed like banshees around him. Finally, at the base of a broken ridge, he saw it. A small figure huddled against a rock, barely visible under a layer of half-frozen snow. The shape trembled, a dull red light blinking feebly from what looked like a Threxian learning module. "Child." He dropped to one knee. "Hey. I've got you." Yari's eyes were wide, her reptilian pupils dilated. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive. Jack pulled her into his arms, activating his body shield to full capacity. The temperature inside spiked to survivable levels, but only barely. "Just hang on, kid," he whispered, voice cracking against the wind. "We're gonna make it." Getting back wasn't easy. Twice, he had to stop and reinforce the shield with emergency pulses. His lungs burned. He lost feeling in 2 fingers. But he never stopped. By the time he staggered through the dome gates, collapsing with a child clutched in his arms, the medics were already racing toward them. The Threxian guards surrounded him instantly, weapons drawn. "Stand down!" came a voice of thunder. Velhara herself emerged, towering over the scene like an obsidian goddess. Her cold eyes locked on Jack, then on her daughter, whose eyelids fluttered open with a shivering gasp. "Mother!" Velhara moved like a phantom, kneeling beside the child. She touched Yari's forehead, then her own. "Ritual." Jack didn't understand. "She lives," the High Matron murmured. "She would have died if I hadn't reached her," Jack said, panting. "Your patrol left her behind." Velhara's eyes narrowed. "Do not presume to lecture me, human. You risked your life without cause. I risked it because I could help. That's the cause." She blinked. Threxians were not often surprised. But something, an unfamiliar tightening behind her sternum, made her pause. "And yet, you owe us nothing." Jack stood wincing. "That's where you're wrong." He turned and walked away, leaving silence in his wake. Ending. Yari recovered. Her frostbite reversed thanks to human medtech. She soon returned to her studies, but something had changed in her. She no longer feared asking questions. She often stared out windows, watching snow fall, as if searching for the human who had held her through the storm. Velhara, too, found herself disturbed. A week after the incident, she visited Ashreach personally. She did not send guards. She did not bring a delegation. She requested a private audience with Jack Armitage. They met in his greenhouse, a humid, colorful chaos of alien plants and Terran crops. "You came alone?" Jack asked, wiping dirt from his hands. "I do not fear humans," Velhara said. "Wasn't fear I was thinking of." She studied him. His scars. The way his hands trembled slightly from nerve damage. "You saved my daughter's life." "I did. You could have died. I knew that." "Why?" Her voice cracked on the word, like she didn't understand it. Jack stepped closer. "Because she was a kid. Because someone had to. That's what we do. We look out for each other. Even if it's dangerous. Even if it hurts. Even if they are not your own. Especially then." Velhara's posture faltered. For the first time in decades, her voice softened. "Threxians do not teach compassion. It is seen as inefficient. Maybe that's why your daughter reached out." Velhara looked away. "You expect gratitude." "No. I expect better from your people. Yuri's a good kid. She deserves to grow up in a world that isn't made of ice and fear." That night, Velhara returned to her dome. The next cycle, a new decree was issued. All Threxian younglings shall be trained alongside human children at Ashreach's cultural center. It sparked debate, outrage, even threats of revolt. Velhara crushed them all. "It is not weakness to understand another," she declared to her council. "It is survival." Months passed. Yari came to Ashreach often now, dragging her mother to science fairs and human celebrations. She had learned to laugh. Velhara, meanwhile, found herself changing in quiet ways, hesitating before punishment, asking questions instead of giving commands, walking slower to listen. And Jack. He still grew tomatoes in his greenhouse, still fixed broken drones and repaired exosuits. But sometimes, when the sun broke through the clouds and melted the frost just a little, he found Velhara standing at his door. She would never say thank you, but she brought rare seeds. Once, a piece of her armor, engraved with a Threxian oath, in debt to the fire that saved the frost.